Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into something pretty complex. The dominance execution loop. It's this proposed behavioral algorithm for analyzing a specific kind of U.S. presidency. And what I found so compelling in the source materials that this isn't just one idea. It's actually a synthesis of two really radical models. You have the psychological driver, what they call Alpha 2.0, and then this ruthless operational playbook, Alpha 1.0.
Right. And that synthesis is key because it tries to answer both the why and the how.
Exactly.
So Alpha 2.0, that's just a term for the ultimate motive. It suggests the only metric of success for this kind of executive is the, quote, unbounded pursuit of coercive and economic power.
So dominance equals success.
Full stop. Full stop. And then the playbook, Alpha 1.0, is what the research calls the Chapter 11 thesis. And this is where it gets really interesting. It views the democratic state not as an institution to govern, but as a distressed asset.
A distressed asset. So you're saying the president is acting like a corporate raider looking at the entire U.S. government.
That's the mental model. It applies the ruthless logic of the bankruptcy court to start dismantling institutional checks and balances.
Okay, let's unpack that metaphor for you, the listener. So the checks and balances, Congress, the courts, the press, they're all seen as creditors.
Yes. Creditors holding claims like oversight and accountability against the executive's power.
And the key mechanism is what they call sequential neutralization of opposition.
Exactly. You target institutions based on their structural power, just like a bankruptcy judge would prioritize different kinds of debt. So you start with the easiest ones. The press and civil society. They're defined as unsecured creditors.
Unsecured because their power is based on norms, right, on public faith, which you can just break.
Precisely. So the tactic is to just void the debt of accountability. They simply deny they owe the press things like transparency. They call them enemies of the people, which is the political version of just liquidating a worthless claim.
Okay, so what about the hard power centers? The judiciary, congressional oversight, the ones with subpoenas and real legal teeth, they must be the secured creditors.
They are, and you can't just liquidate them, so the tactic shifts to subordination and, well, outright defiance.
Which is the political equivalent of a cram down.
It is. A cram down, for anyone who's not a lawyer, is basically when a court forces a creditor to accept a deal that weakens their claim, even if they object.
So politically, that means delegitimizing the courts, defying their orders, and forcing them to accept less power than they're constitutionally owed.
Yes, and the whole point of this, the entire systemic restructuring, is immunity as endgame. It's the ultimate discharge of debt.
To put the executive permanently beyond the reach of the law.
Right. Now, when the research came out, it claimed a perfect 10-10 in what it called retrodiction for explaining past events. But critics pretty quickly downgraded that to an 8-10.
Why the downgrade?
They argued it risked curve fitting. You know, the idea that the theory might have been custom-built to explain just one specific presidency, which weakens its value as a general model.
So, explaining the past is debatable. But what about the model's predictive power? This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
It is, because despite that critique, the model scored a 9.5 out of 10 on its operational predictions. It's incredibly good at predicting the strategic direction of conflict.
So what's the key predictive insight for you to take away?
It's this. When this type of executive faces institutional pushback, say, they lose a court case or face an investigation, it will not lead to compromise. It won't lead to them backing down.
The model says it leads to escalation.
Always, every time. It predicts extra legal workarounds or just a direct frontal assault on that institution's legitimacy. And look, the final systemic implication here is huge. The algorithm is rated about 9-10 for power accumulation. It's brutally efficient. But the research warns it has, quote, no off-ramp.
No off-ramp, so it just requires constant acceleration.
Constant acceleration and escalation.
So what does this all mean for you? The loop is clearly effective at grabbing power. But the strategy itself, well, it burns through social capital and institutional trust. So even if the executive wins, they inherit a crippled state.
Because they've systematically liquidated the very institutions you need to actually govern.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. If this entire algorithm is designed to treat the democratic system as an insolvent entity that needs to be liquidated,
then how does that same system, which is fundamentally built on norms and good faith, ever successfully defend itself?